Rotation 14. Let's get into it. We got Secret Life by Brian Eno and Fred Again. Possibly reverse that, I don't know. This one's from Chai. And Chai has told me so many good things about Fred Again. Brian Eno is a master in his craft. He knows what he's doing. He does it excellently. And so I went into this with pretty high expectations, and I'd say they were met. I don't know if I'd go so far as to say that they were exceeded, however. It was very calm, very relaxing, and from what Chai has shown me of Fred Again, definitely has that signature, I don't want to say sad, but lamenting. You know, there's a longing in his delivery and in the composition, and I think that Brian Eno's very minimalistic style really complemented that. And I love a cohesive, I love an immersive environment. I love that kind of sound and being in that atmosphere. And this album definitely provided on that. That being said, it didn't strike me. It didn't knock me over. It didn't hit me straight in the heart or in the feelings and anything. But beyond that, I think that's an unrealistic expectation to hold of any album. When I'm feeling that way, I'm feeling it out of surprise, usually. That's something that new experiences give me. And so I don't ask that of anything. I would like it. I would always like it. But to go into something expecting that just seems unfair. All in all, very cohesive, very well done, did what it was meant to do, and did it beautifully. So it's getting an 8 out of 10. And I'm on the damn wrong window again. God dang it. All right. Excuse me. Nope, not done. Okay. Sorry about that. We got Bloom by Rufus du Sol, which I appreciate the umlauts in there, from Nick. And it's good. It's fun. Not like pumping. I'm not like freaking out over it, but yeah, it was a good time. Chill, danceable. Just put this in like a relaxed party, a party with your friends where no one's taken a stimulant. There's no coke here. There's no Molly here, and there's especially no meth. But could be a little bit of that. Could be a little, but. It wasn't like thrilling. It wasn't explosive, and I don't think it was trying to be in any way or form. And it was acceptable. Nothing on it super stood out to me as good nor bad. I listened to this driving. I listened to this driving through southern Ohio, which isn't really the environment, I think, for this. If you're driving through, I don't know, like Utah or Arizona, I think this shit would hit. But for what it was, for my experience of it, 7. I like 7. We'll call it a 7. Not a 7. We got Scaring the Hose. Pardon my French. We got Scaring the Hose by Danny Brown and JPEG Mafia. This one's from Hunter. It slaps. It goes. I already love JPEG Mafia. Love me some Veteran. I won't say I love Danny Brown. I like Danny Brown. I've listened to Atrocity Exhibition, and there's a couple of tracks off of it that I really like. But when you put them together, when you let those minds meld, when you let them cook, they made something that does, in fact, scare the hose. And I ain't no hoe. I ain't scared. I'm loving this shit. It's fun. It's energetic. The beats are creative and well done. It's like nothing I've ever heard. I feel like they elevated experimental hip hop. They took what was laid down before them by like Death Grips, Tyler the Creator, and their own prior work, and they just blossomed with it. They made something so interesting. They made something so fun and unique. And I really love Scaring the Hose. I really want a Scaring the Hose Part 2. That might be too much to ask for, but when I listened to this when it came out, I was blown away. I listened to it again. It still hits. Those beats are I'm using interesting too much. Those beats are like nothing else, and they make it work in a way that I didn't know, you could make it work. And for that experimentation, for that creativity, and for how well it all came together, it's an easy 9 out of 10. But it's not a 9 out of 10. It's my album. It's one of my favorite albums. It's not my favorite album. I'll get into that. We got 13 Blues for 13 Moons by Silver Mount Zion. Now, Silver Mount Zion. You got Godspeed You Black Emperor. Legends. Possibly, arguably, the best post-rock band of all time. So what happens when you take this group of people and you let them sing? What you get is a man who is not a trained vocalist. And yet, I'm not shy about my political leanings. I am an anarchist. I love that. And it just so happens, by coincidence, that Godspeed You Black Emperor and Silver Mount Zion are both anarchist bands. And the messaging and the lyrics, oh boy, do they set my heart on fire. And if this album was not so politically engaging for me, I don't think I would like it as much as I do. But the fact that I agree with the messaging, and I love the messaging on it, Ephraim's lack of vocal professionalism, it just makes it feel authentic. It makes it feel real. It makes me feel like I'm sitting around a campfire singing these folk songs. I'm not sitting actually, scratch that. I'm sitting around a burning cop car, and I'm hooting and hollering these folk songs. And I love it. I love it so much. Now, my favorite album of all time, my number one, I have it hanging on a wall out there in my living room. I have it framed. Is Horses in the Sky by Silver Mount Zion. Came out a little bit earlier than this one. And the reason I didn't pick it, despite really wanting to, is because I feel like as it goes on, as Silver Mount Zion as a project continues, Ephraim learns to sing more and more. And so while, he certainly still doesn't have a traditional vocalist voice in this, he's better. And I find that the lyrics on this, while not as poetic, are more engaging, are more just upfront. You don't have to dig as much with this album. It's the more accessible version of Horses in the Sky. And every song on this album, excluding the Untitled's at the start, which thematically I get because it brings the number of songs on the album up to 13, which it'd be weird if the album did not have 13 blues on it. Every song fulfills a different niche, and I love every song. I could listen to every song over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, and I love it so much. Just so much. It's a 10. You knew it was a 10. I told you it was a 10. It's a 10. It's a 10. I'm gonna stop. Okay, this is taking up enough time. We got Songs You All Know by Heart by Jimmy Buffett from Dom. It's Jimmy Buffett. I love the guy. In complete contrast to the album I've just reviewed, I don't have a lot to say. Jimmy Buffett provides miraculous. That's not the word. Immaculate. I've used that word too much. The vibes. Come on. You want to sip that margarita, don't you? You want to get a little daiquiri, maybe a little Mai Tai, a little pina colada, get a little sunburn, hear the waves in the ocean, maybe catch some fish. There is no better song, there's no better man to get blackout drunk at 2:30 p.m. on a weekday with than James. I will not disrespect the man. I will simply state and leave it be. I will simply state and leave it be that I'm not the kind of person who regularly listens to Jimmy Buffett. But when you get the buff, I'm not going to tell you to turn him off. I'm not that kind of guy. I'm not mean. I love him. I love him. I didn't love the album, but I'm not going to go out insulting it. It's a 6.5 out of 10, and I'm going to leave it there. We're not going to talk about it. All right, next up we got Aether by Virtua and Accra, maybe, from Connor. It was good. It's chill wave. It's totally something. You know, like, for me, I'm a weirdo. I'm kind of a freak. You know, like fucking crazy bread from Little Caesars. That's just bread to me, man. And so I don't listen to chill wave. When I'm doing my like studying or my desk work, I'm listening to some fucking Tim Hecker. I'm listening to some Death's Dynamic Shroud. Maybe, if I'm feeling it, maybe even a little bit of Minecraft, okay? And this is the music that most people, I think, would associate with studying. Something tedious, something kind of mind-numbing, but a task that nonetheless needs to get done. And this could absolutely be the backing track for that, you know? It's a really good vibe. It's focusing. It doesn't demand your attention. You can by all means give it your attention, but it's not going to force you into it. This is something you can have on while you're using your brain to do something else. Wasn't a standout moment for me, but nothing ever offensive. I never felt it got stale or repetitive. It just was coherent in what it was trying to do. So for what it was good. That's just not my jam. So I think it's fair to give it a 6.5 out of 10. I'm burping. We got Leaving Meaning by Swans from Kyle. It's not my favorite Swans album. I understand why Kyle chose it. It is arguably the second best Swans album that fits in the time limit that we set. And it's good. It's good Swans. It gives you kind of a taste of modern Swans without really forcing you to sit down for 2 hours. It's not far from 2 hours, but those extra 30 minutes really do something to your brain. I feel like Leaving Meaning definitely combines, or at least takes hints from different eras of Swans in a way that I do really like, and it blends them together well. But it just doesn't have that same experience of sitting in the same emotional ground for a very long time, you know, that you'll get off of the longer, the 2-hour albums. But my only real complaint on it is, you know, it just isn't those 2-hour records. And, you know, you might think that's just kind of a slight deduction. That might, that's going to bring it down from like a 9.5 to like an 8? Those 30 extra minutes make all the difference in my enjoyment of Swans. I want to dissociate. I want to feel like I'm being ritualistically sacrificed. And while Sunfucker does a pretty good job of that, it's not the wolf. It's not the seer. It's not Bring the Sun to Saint Louverture. It's not the glowing man. It's not those monumental moments that I love from Swans. So, Leaving Meaning, it's a 7.5. It's still Swans. I still really like it, but it's not the Swans I love. It's the Swans I like. It's not the Swans I love. So, 7.5 out of 10, graciously. We got The Beautiful Game by Wolfpack from Xavier, and I'm going to keep it real. Xavier, going into this, and with some of the first few albums that, you know, like I heard from you, I was like, oh, okay, you know, everyone's entitled to like the music they like, and, you know, it would be completely absurd for me to assume that I'm going to love everything I hear. But my man, you've been on a run. You've been on a run. I remember you, and I preemptively apologize. You went with me to see King Gizzard in Detroit a couple of years ago, and on the way back we started talking about music. You talked about Wolfpack. You put on a couple of songs, and I wrote it off. I shouldn't have. I think Wolfpack, at least in my limited experience of it, for me, that's something I need to listen to as a full album. Hearing the individual tracks, I just don't think is enough time for me to get into the mindset I need to really enjoy it. But The Beautiful Game, I did. I really enjoyed it. It was groovy, it was fun, it was funky, it was dancing. I was in my car, so I couldn't move as much as I wanted to. But I'm not a guy who moves a lot. I'm not a dancer. I'm not a viber, a groover, you know? And yet, I wanted to, at the very least. And, I'm driving, going through southern West Virginia, and, at the very least, I'm going, you know how it is. So, Wolfpack, another shock for me, another surprise, a pleasant surprise. Happy to hear it, happy to have experienced it. Some songs, I'm not a funker. I'm not a guy, right? And there's some songs on this that I'm gonna go back to. I liked it. Animal Spirit. That's so uplifting. It's so joyful. How can you not smile listening to that? Or the Conscious Club. I like the German. I want to go to the Conscious Club. I don't care how I get there. I don't care how long it takes. I want to go there. Wolfpack is the house band. I'd go see them. I would go. So, all that being said, it's still not my genre. It's still not the thing I'm going to put on every day. But there are some days. There will be some days where I say, you know what? I want to put on Wolfpack. So, 7 out of 10. We got Dubstep Allstarts Volume 6. I'm going to say by Apple Blim. I'm pretty certain that the tracks were not all created by Apple Blim, but just, put together in the order that they are from Apple Blim. This one's from Brendan. And what I've learned through Music Club is that I had a completely inaccurate understanding of what dubstep was as a genre before going into Music Club, which I think a lot of, especially Americans, do have. But this was cool. It was relaxing's not the right word for it. It wasn't as bumpin', It had that bass, it had that kick, but it was slow. It was enjoyable. It didn't force me into it. It didn't demand anything from me. And funny enough, I also listened to this going through southern West Virginia, just the other way, and I liked it. Out of this kind of dubstep, I've heard this, and I've heard the album from Scream that we had earlier. I preferred the Scream album to this, but I think I've learned that this style of dubstep is totally something I can get behind. Definitely something I could continue to listen to. So, nothing super stand out, but has certainly piqued my interest into the looking into the genre further. So, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10, leave it there. We got Mellon, Collie and the Infinite Sadness from the Smashing Pumpkins from Jude. Obviously I've heard some songs off of this, Bullet with a Butterfly Wings, 1989, or 1979, what? 1989. You know what I'm talking about. And so, going into this, I was like, okay, let's get Mr. Corgan, let's get his very unique voice in there. One, I want to mention this before I forget, I think you broke the rule, Jude. I don't know if it was just the version of the album I listened to, but the one I found on Spotify was 2 hours. So, naughty. But I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I had a really good time with it, and every track was interesting. Every track was as cool. Well, maybe not as cool as Bullet with Butterfly Wings, but not far behind. I think anything off of that could be a radio play. Anything off of that is something I could listen to and enjoy. And when you put that many really solid tracks into an album, it's a good album. It's really nice. It's really cohesive. And I listened to that whole thing, all 2 hours of it, a little more than 2 hours of it. And I wasn't bored for a minute. Any complaint I have about it is just that maybe they could have ordered the songs a little differently, because sometimes you'd get that kind of emotional whiplash between songs, going from a more subdued track to more of a metal-focused track. But beyond that, everything on this album was really, really, at the very least, really decent, and a lot of it was really good. I was surprised. I knew that this album was critically acclaimed, but I thought, okay, you probably got a couple, hits on it, and you know how it is, an album gets a couple hits on it, it becomes oh, yeah, you gotta listen to this, it's great. But the whole thing front to back. Really good. Really good. I need to listen to it again to really, I think, fully digest it, but it has 100% deserved or earned that second listen, that deeper dive into it. So for now, it's getting a 9.5 out of 10. I thought it was really damn good. All right. Lastly, this rotation. Did I say rotation 14? I should have said rotation 14. I think I said rotation 14. Lastly, we got Music for Scientists by Patrick Olson from Evan, and that's all he was trying to do. I really did. And I think he 100% accomplished what he set out to do of making a album that revolves around science and metaphors of science. He did that. No question, he did do that. But at what cost? This was like Temu Coldplay, Wish.com, Alibaba Coldplay. And I'm already not that big of a Coldplay guy. The instruments, the beats, the way that the songs were constructed, even the performances were mediocre the whole way through. Just none of it struck me at all. The thing that I remember, the mental note I have of this album is, this is so mid. And again, in terms of the lyrics, in terms of how he wrote the songs and he fit in those references to science, which I know he had to have been super happy with that, right? He did that. He did that really well. But I think it came at the cost of actually making a noteworthy or remarkable album. Aside from his, I'm not going to call it half-baked because I think that's a little too mean, but it really seems like he wrote the lyrics first and then made an album to put the lyrics in. And I think if he spent as much time making making the beats and the instrumentals, as much time as he spent writing the lyrics, this probably could have been a really interesting experience. But I feel like he got the lyrics done. He said, great, let's make some music. And then one take, we're done. So he did what he tried to do. He should have tried harder. 4.5 out of 10. Just bleh. No. Okay. Bye.